I found something behind my basement wall, and I regret it. The lawyer's voice was a dry, rustling sound on the phone. Mr. Olson, the estate of Thomas Ashton has been settled. The house is yours, mine. A crumbling Victorian on the outskirts of Havenwood, Pennsylvania. I'd never even met my great-uncle Thomas. Mom said he was eccentric, a recluse. And now, after the divorce, it was my new beginning. Cheaper than therapy anyway. The house smelled of dust and decay the first time I stepped inside. Heavy velvet drapes choked the windows, casting the interior in a perpetual twilight. Furniture, shrouded in white sheets, stood like ghostly sentinels. The air hung thick with the scent of mildew, and something else. Something earthy, almost metallic. Sarah, my sister, came with me that first day. "Needs work, Mark," she said, her voice echoing in the cavernous living room. "But it has potential. And it's a hell of a lot cheaper than renting that shoebox in the city." David, my best friend since kindergarten, trailed behind us, whistling. "Dude, this is straight out of a horror movie. Perfect bachelor pad." We started with the basics. Clearing out the overgrown yard, patching the leaky roof, getting the electricity running. Every day revealed new layers of neglect. Old newspapers stacked to the ceiling, cobwebs thick as cotton candy, and the lingering feeling that I was being watched. Damp, cold, and smelling even more strongly of that metallic scent. The previous owner had used it as a workshop, judging by the scattered tools and half-finished projects. There was a strange bricked-up wall in the far corner that wasn't on any of the blueprints I could find. "What's this?" David asked one afternoon, running his hand along the rough surface. "Looks like someone went to a lot of trouble to hide something." I shrugged. "Probably just some old storage space. Let's leave it for now." But the image of that wall stayed with me. The way the bricks were unevenly mortared, the subtle difference in color from the rest of the foundation. It nagged at me. Days turned into weeks. We painted, cleaned, and started to make the house habitable. But the basement still loomed over me, a dark, unexplored corner of my new life. I found myself spending more and more time down there, staring at that wall. One evening, I couldn't resist anymore. I grabbed a sledgehammer from the garage. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked, finding me poised to strike. "Just curious," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. "Mark, are you sure this is a good idea? You've been acting weird lately." I brushed her concerns aside. "It's just a wall, Sarah. Relax." With a grunt, I swung the hammer. The brick gave way with a satisfying crack. David joined us, and together we demolished the wall, revealing a small, windowless room. The air inside was stale and heavy, the metallic scent overpowering. It was filled with things that made my skin crawl. Old, leather-bound journals with yellowed pages and spidery handwriting. Antique tools that looked more like instruments of torture than anything else. A collection of dolls, each with porcelain faces and disturbingly lifelike eyes. And a tarnished silver locket lying open on a dusty table. "Jesus, Mark," David said, his voice hushed. "What is all this?" I picked up one of the journals. The writing was barely legible, a rambling collection of thoughts and observations filled with strange symbols and diagrams. I couldn't make heads or tails of it. "I don't know," I said, a knot forming in my stomach. "But I have a feeling it's not good." That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of the room, the dolls, the journals, kept flashing in my mind. I got up and went downstairs, drawn back to the basement like a moth to a flame. I spent hours poring over the journals, trying to decipher the cryptic entries. They spoke of rituals, of obsession, of a descent into madness. The name Ashton appeared frequently, along with other names I didn't recognize. The writing grew increasingly frantic and incoherent as the pages progressed. The dolls were even more disturbing. Each one was meticulously crafted, with intricate details and eerily realistic features. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were watching me. I opened the locket. Inside was a picture of a young girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, with dark hair and wide, innocent eyes. There was something unsettling about her gaze. I started researching Thomas Ashton, my great-uncle. I found newspaper articles about him, mostly about his reclusive lifestyle and eccentric habits. There were rumors, whispers about strange activities taking place at the house, about occult practices and dark secrets. The more I learned, the more uneasy I became. The house felt different now, colder, more oppressive. I started hearing noises, whispers in the dark, the faint sound of footsteps on the stairs when I was alone. I began having nightmares, vivid, disturbing dreams filled with images of the dolls, the journals, and the girl in the locket. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, convinced that someone was watching me. One morning, I found one of the dolls lying on the floor of my bedroom. I hadn't brought it upstairs. "Mark, you need to stop this," Sarah said, her voice tight with worry. "You're scaring me. You're not yourself." David agreed. "Dude, this is getting out of hand. Just leave the past alone." I tried to explain what I was feeling, the sense of urgency, the need to uncover the truth. But they didn't understand. They thought I was losing it. "You're letting this house get to you," Sarah said. "It's just an old building. It's not worth your sanity." I dismissed their concerns. I was convinced that something terrible had happened in that house, something that needed to be brought to light. I couldn't stop now. David and I got into a fight. A shouting match that ended with him storming out of the house, telling me to call him when I came to my senses. I was alone. I sought out Mrs. Hawthorne, the elderly neighbor who lived across the street. She'd lived in Havenwood her whole life, and I figured she might know something about Thomas Ashton. She was a frail woman with piercing blue eyes and a knowing smile. "You're living in Thomas Ashton's house, aren't you?" she said, her voice raspy. I nodded. "I was hoping you could tell me something about him." She hesitated, her eyes darting around nervously. "Some things are better left buried, young man." "But I need to know," I insisted. "I found some disturbing things in the basement." She sighed. "Thomas was a strange man, always kept to himself. People said he was touched, that he dabbled in things he shouldn't have." "What kind of things?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She shook her head. "I don't want to say. Just be careful, Mr. Olson. That house has a dark history." Her words only fueled my obsession. I spent every waking moment poring over the journals, trying to piece together the puzzle. I started experiencing periods of disorientation, moments where I couldn't remember where I was or what I was doing. I'd find myself in the basement, surrounded by the dolls and journals, with no recollection of how I got there. One night, I had a particularly vivid nightmare. I was standing in the secret room, surrounded by the dolls. They were all staring at me, their porcelain faces twisted into grotesque smiles. The girl in the locket was there too, her eyes burning into my soul. I woke up screaming, my body drenched in sweat. I ran to the basement. Driven by a cryptic entry in one of the journals, I started searching the secret room for something else, something hidden. I tore up the floorboards, ripped down the wallpaper, and finally, I found it. A hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Inside was a human skull. Everything went black. I don't know how long I was out. When I came to, I was lying on the floor of the secret room, the skull clutched in my hands. The room was spinning. The dolls were laughing, and I could hear a voice whispering my name. "Mark, Mark." I looked up. Standing in the doorway was a figure shrouded in shadow. It was tall and gaunt, with long skeletal fingers and eyes that burned like coals. "Thomas?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The figure smiled, a slow, cruel smile that sent a shiver down my spine. "Welcome home, Mark." I lunged at him, fueled by adrenaline and terror. We grappled, stumbled, and fell. The room was a blur of shadows and movement. I felt a sharp pain in my head, and then everything went black again. I woke up in a hospital bed. Sarah was sitting beside me, her face pale and drawn. "You're safe now, Mark," she said, her voice trembling. "You're safe." David was there too, his arm in a sling. "What the hell happened down there, man?" he asked, his voice hoarse. I tried to explain, to tell them about the journals, the dolls, the skull, the figure in the shadows, but they looked at me with pity and disbelief. "The police found you unconscious in the basement," Sarah said. "You were holding a skull. They think you might have hallucinated the rest. The police investigated the house. They found the secret room, the journals, the dolls, and the skull. They sent the skull for forensic analysis, but they found nothing else. No evidence of a struggle, no sign of another person." The forensic analysis was inconclusive. The skull was old. but they couldn't determine its age or identity. The police dismissed my experience as a result of stress and psychological trauma. I was released from the hospital, but I wasn't the same. I was haunted by the images and sensations, forever questioning my sanity. Was it all real, or was it just a product of my fractured mind? I went back to the house. I couldn't stay away. I needed to know the truth. The house was empty, silent, waiting. I went down to the basement. The secret room was still there, just as I had left it. The dolls were staring at me, their porcelain faces impassive. I picked up the locket. The girl in the picture was still smiling, her eyes still burning. And then, I saw it. A faint movement in the corner of my eye. A shadow flickering in the darkness. I turned around. Mrs. Hawthorne was standing in the doorway, her frail figure silhouetted against the dim light. She was smiling, a knowing, unsettling smile. "You found it, didn't you, Mr. Olson?" she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You found the truth." I stared at her, my heart pounding in my chest. "What do you know?" I asked, my voice trembling. Her smile widened. "I know everything, Mr. Olson. I've been waiting for you." And then she laughed. A long, chilling laugh that echoed through the house, a laugh that promised something terrible was about to happen. I don't know what happened next. I don't remember. All I know is that I'm still in the house. And I'm not alone.